Going live, going live, going live. We're live. Look at that, everybody. It's time for our pre-show of today's 2/20/12/02. That's our Core 2 study group. And we are in good shape right now. Thanks for joining us. See folks in the chat room. We can disconnect that. We can check this. Everything seems to be working so far. Okay. I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's unplug and plug a few extra things. Cameras look pretty good. We got the Cylons are only one of them is going. I'm glad I checked. Get that other guy going here. Go, go, go. Go. There we go. Now we got both of our recordings going. Now you can see they're both going down. And the top one you can't see. It's, well, you see the little bottom of it, but that one is working perfectly. We've got our map of the world up. If you want to put your digital pin in our virtual pin cushion. Not even sure how to say that anymore. But there it is. There's the map. So we can see where you are. I like to see where everybody's at in the world. Give you a feel for where you're connecting from. Hello, chat room. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is okay. Oh, we got folks checking in from all over. Thanks for being here. Trying to get my microphone in a better place. Sorry for all the extra noise there. It's a little bit there. We got a lot to go through. We start breaking this out some. I think there is some folks checking in. There's some Floridians checking in. New York City is here. MT, guessing Montana, is here. Haven't been out there in a bit. I need to get back out to Montana. Skipped over the winter months. I think that's what happened. Tried to avoid it. I stayed in Florida for the winter. I did end up staying in Florida for the summer as well, but that's a different thing. It's a different issue entirely. It's 71 in Montana. What in the world? I got to check my weather. Let's see what we got here. Livingston 47. So I'm not seeing the 70s. I'm seeing the 47 degrees in Livingston where I would normally hang out. And it's not much better here. 58 degrees here in sunny Orlando without the sun. It's very overcast today. We've got about 7 minutes, a little bit less, almost 6 minutes before we get started on the study group. This is the pre-show, so I do get occasionally emails from people saying, "Why am I just looking at your screens from behind?" You'll get here eventually. Eventually, you'll see this right here. You'll see me. But at the moment, we see this. That's where we are. This is my chance to make sure that all of my cameras are set up, that I have the proper questions loaded. That's one thing I didn't check, actually. Do I have the proper questions loaded? Which one is this? And let's confirm with this. Yep, that looks right. Is this the right one? Yeah. Yes, it is. Do we have the right performance-based question in here? We do. Okay. It's all good. You have those moments, like when you're working through it, like, is this what we're doing? Is this what we're hunting down? Is this the thing we're doing? Yes, it is. We have the right questions. We have the right presentation. We never know. We never know until we do it. We really do know. That's the plan. Okay. Folks are checking in from all over. Thank you for being here. You might want to try that connection right now if you haven't already for the professormesser.com/QA that you see right behind me here. That is the link that allows you to get in and answer questions during the live stream. You don't need anything extra. You don't need any extra codes. You don't need any extra IDs. You just type that in. It takes care of everything for you. Don't even have to worry about it. We are getting there. 4.5 minutes to go. Everything here looks pretty good. Pretty good. We were doing pretty good here in Florida with weather. It was really cold during the weekend. It started warming up. Now another front has come through and things are starting to cool down again, but it'll warm up a little bit more tomorrow. So the weekend should be okay. That's what I'm hoping anyway. We'll get the whole thing going on. The Florida weather this winter has been pretty tough, pretty bad. It was so cold here in Orlando And a lot of plants are now, we have very tropical type plants here. It is plants that aren't expecting to be in the freezing temperatures. So a lot of them are having problems. Yeah, I'm back to a different, my original clock app. This is the original one that I ran, which is okay. They haven't quite optimized it for the latest iPad OS. But the one I was using over the last few months kept feeding me malware. Not technically, it was feeding me links to sites that would give me malware or that would phish me. And I didn't like that the ads that it was serving were of such poor quality. So I threw it out. I don't need something telling me all the time, click here, you've got a virus on my iPad. Thanks for the pop-up. These are the things we have to look at after these days. Although these days you just install your favorite notepad app, and that's the thing that causes your biggest problem. So you have to be aware of every little thing and think about how it would affect you and what would happen with it. So that's my examples. Every little thing was my iPad trying to get me infected. I have screenshots of it somewhere that talk about, oh, you've got a virus, call this phone number. Like, why is it? It's an ad. So the attackers are using the advertising to present us, to phish us with the ad, an ad that we have to watch in the app. So it's forced upon you, and then you have to make a decision about what that's going to do for you. It's one of those situations. Okay, we are good here. That looks all right. Great shape. 2 minutes to go, everybody. 2 minutes to go. This app is one called, what's the name of it? Clock Phone. Well, we had a meeting. We sat around. We thought, what's a good name for a clock that we're going to have on the phone? What should we... Clock and it's on a phone. Clock and it's on a... I don't know. I got nothing. How about we do Clock Phone? Clock Phone? That's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? So there you go. That's what we did. We did Clock Phone. So that is the Clock Phone running on my, and it's not technically, yes, it's a clock. Technically, no, that's not a phone, but we're doing it anyway. We're using it anyway. It works fine. I need something there because across the top, I try to make my screens full screen so I don't have a lot of toolbars and menu items on the screen when we're using it. And that's why everything is sort of hidden. Normally there would be a clock right at the top of my screen. I'd be able to see it. There's a menu bar, but it's hidden. So I have to go to a third clock. Good thing I have an iPad. That's an incredible investment in technology. Well, I need this iPad. Well, I need an extra $1,000 for an iPad so that I could show it as a clock. Well, why don't you just get a clock? That's a great question. Glad you asked that. And here we are. And here's what the technology has done to us. This is where we sit. It could just be maybe an AI clock that told you what it thinks the time is, but can never quite get it right. I think that would be a fantastic. We wouldn't even call it, maybe we shouldn't call it an AI clock. We'll call it an OWL clock. Because every time I see AI written out, I think, oh, it's Al. No wonder you're getting bad advice. Don't trust him for anything. Al has never been useful. Okay, let's try to get my keynote going. It's top of the hour, everybody. It's time to get started already. What am I waiting for? Got a play button. That works. Click, click, click. The remotes are working. Screens are working. It's really time that we should do a live stream. Let's put this here. Let's put this down here. And let's get started. Here we go, everybody. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the February 2026 Professor Messer 220-1202. That is our Core 2 study group. Thank you so much for being here. This is our monthly Core 2 study group where I ask you questions that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. And if you are watching and paying attention and you know these objectives, then you'll probably be able to get some of these questions correct straight away. If you are joining us here live, you can also answer the questions online live by visiting the link that is on your screen, professormesser.com/QA. That is the link that takes you to a front end called Vevox, an odd name, but it is an extremely useful collaboration tool that allows me to ask questions of you, and then you can answer interactively on the World Wide Web to be able to go to one screen and just answer questions for the entire event. It works really great that way. I even have a question waiting for you, so you can use that link right now to do what we call a rewind question. A rewind question is a question that we've done in a previous study group. This is the only time today that you're going to get a question from a previous study group, I promise. The question that you're looking for, before we get into the questions, let me give you our standing rules when it comes to answering questions in the study group. The first rule, and really the biggest rule, please no answers in the chat room. Please don't put any hints in the chat room. I guess technically that's 2 rules. So go with those rules, and if you know where to go, we'll look at that in just a moment. You'll be able to answer this question. There's your link where you will go. You've probably heard this before, professormesser.com/QA. The question that we have for you is, a Linux administrator is using the DNF command from the server console. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this? Would it be to change file permissions, to check available drive space, to edit a configuration file, to upgrade a software package, or to view documentation for a utility? Now, if you think you know the answer, you need to go to the link on your screen, professormesser.com/QA. Please do not put answers into the chat room. Please do not put any hints in the chat room. We're going to come back to this question in just a moment, so don't worry. We will figure out what that answer is, and we'll see how you answer this question in just a moment. Thank you so much for being here. We do one of these study groups every month. We do one for Core 1. We do another study group for Core 2. We do one next week. We have one for Network Plus. And then the week after that, we have one for Security Plus. So we have a number of live events we like to do. If you would like to follow us on our favorite social media sites, you simply type in professormesser.com/ the name of the social media site you would like to find us. So if you'd like to find all of our completely free and available training courses, you can find those at professormesser.com/YouTube. You also have questions on Twitter. You have questions on Instagram every day. There's lots of places to go with plenty of resources. Simply use some of those links to find us in and around the internet, especially on those social media sites. We also have an opportunity during this hour for you to earn a 1-hour webinar category CEU. That stands for a Continuing Education Unit Credit. Now, if you don't know what a CEU is, then you probably don't need one. But if you already have a CompTIA certification, you can use that CEU to help you count up and collect additional CPUs so that you can renew your certification. Not everybody uses CEUs for their renewal process, so you may not need this, but it's something that I do like to offer for the folks that do. Just listen in sometime during this first hour for that CEU information. Also let you know that everything we're going to do today is talking about the A+ exam version of a 220.1202. On the CompTIA website, they also refer to this as version 15 for some reason. I don't know. I don't make up these rules. This is just what you'll see if you go out to the CompTIA website. So don't be thrown if you see those things together. Perfectly normal. This is an exam that was released in March of last year, so it's not even been out for even a year at this point. So you're working with some relatively recent information, which is great. The estimated retirement for this, since we generally have these exams available for approximately 3.5 years, if we do the math, that means that this exam should retire somewhere around September of 2028. You have plenty of time, if you are here in 2026, to work towards finishing both of these A+ exams. The exams themselves are 90 minutes in length. There are 2 different exams that you need to pass to earn your A+. One of them is a 220-1201. We did our 1201 study group 2 days ago. You can always go back and watch the replay for that one. You need to earn a 675 on a scale from 100 to 900. You have to do a little bit better for the 1202. The Core 2 exam requires you to earn a 700 to be able to pass that exam. And once you pass both of those exams, you are then A+ certified. Once you earn that certification, you pass both of those exams, your certification is then good for 3 years. And you can, of course, renew that certification anytime during that 3-year period to extend it another 3 years. And then you can extend it another 3 years. And then you can keep renewing it for another 3 years. The idea is that you only have to take the exams one time, and then you can simply use renewals to be able to extend those throughout the time frame that you earn them. Now, you also will notice there are different topics that we will cover today than we covered 2 days ago, because this is the Core 2 exam, and the topics and domains associated with that exam are operating systems, security, software troubleshooting, and operational procedures. So we will be hopefully hitting questions from all of those categories today. There's a lot that we could go through to be able to understand the details of this. We'll get through a few of those topics today, but obviously there are hundreds and hundreds of topics you need to know on your Core 2 exam. This is available for a replay on YouTube immediately after we're done. It's an automatic process. Once I hit the stop button, it does a couple of, extra special things for a couple of minutes to get everything ready to go, and then it's presented to you. You can watch it immediately. I also create an audio-only version of this that I distribute in a podcast format. If you would like to add this to your favorite podcast listening program, you can go to professormesser.com/podcast. That's another good way to find our A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus study groups in a format that you could take in the car when you're working out or anytime when you can't really watch a screen. If you are on a social media or a streaming media site, then you can go to things like Spotify. Just search for Professor Messer. You'll find that the podcasts are already there as well. Also, you'll notice that if you look at our YouTube video description about a day after we're done, you will see timestamps appear for the things that we do during the live event. Those timestamps are brought to you thanks to my marketing manager, Lori. Hi, Lori. She's going through this replay. She's watching everything that we're doing. She's writing down what we have in these timestamps. And we've done this for years now. We go back and every single one of our replays is indexed perfectly because we're able to do it with the eye of a human. We're able to make sure we give you the most accurate training materials possible. This is another example of that. And you'll find that that's available about a day later after we are done with this study group. So you won't see that immediately, but you will see it up here in the study group content once we are finished over on the YouTube side. Also let you know that when we are done here, I will also be over on my Discord. That's usually where I'm hanging out. We're not in a live stream. And this is where thousands of people have joined us who are studying for their A+, their Network Plus, Security Plus, and other certifications. There are a lot of smart people that are in there. You can go to professormesser.com/Discord to join our Discord. We always have a lot of fun there. And there's some really great people there that are willing to help you with your studies. And of course, you can create your own study rooms and be in charge of your own study rooms on our Discord. Just something that's provided to you automatically when you join. You can find that at professormesser.com/Discord. We're going to get to your question that you had earlier in just a moment, but I do want to remind you that if you're in the US or Canada, that you will be able to purchase a discounted voucher from the Professor Messer website instead of purchasing that full price voucher over on the CompTIA website. It's the same voucher, but it is now discounted if you happen to be in the US or Canada. You can find that at professormesser.com/vouchers. Not only do you get a voucher for less, you are also getting a little bit more because I have written an exam hacks ebook that goes through the process of tips and tricks for studying for this exam. I also give you tips and tricks that you can use during the exam itself, strategies that I have used to get at least maybe a few extra points on my exam. It might be something that can give you a few extra points as well. Find out more at professormesser.com/vouchers. and you will be able to not only save a little bit of money, but maybe get some tips and tricks that you didn't know about previously. Let's go back to that question I asked earlier, which is a Linux administrator is using the DNF command from a server console. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this? Is it to change file permissions? Is it to check available drive space? Is it used to edit a configuration file? Are we upgrading a software package, or are we viewing documentation for a utility? Let's see how you did with this one. We're going to stop our poll and see what the results are. We have quite a smattering of answers, but we did get a majority of 53% of you say the answer is to upgrade a software package. We got double digits, though. 18% say file permissions, 18% also say check available drive space, and 10% say to edit a configuration file. Only 2%, way down in the single digits category, say to view documentation for a utility. DNF. It's an odd set of initials. It is really an updated version of Yum. It's such a great updated version of Yum that it's dandified. I don't know either, but there it is. Thank you, Linux people, for keeping things interesting. This is a package manager. So if you are familiar with Yum, if you are familiar with apt or apt-get, or a number of other package managers that are out there, now you should also be aware of this package manager, DNF. Has similar syntax and it's used very similar to Yum, but you will find that it is a replacement to Yum on a number of different distributions. We refer to these packages as RPM packages, the Red Hat Package Manager format. It is a format that's used on more than just Red Hat Linux. You'll see it on a number of Linux distributions, but usually these are distributions that have a link back to the Red Hat style or Red Hat method of Linux distributions. DNF is what you're going to use if you're installing an application, if you're uninstalling an application, if you are updating an application. You have a lot of different things that you could use for this. DNF is the answer for that you should consider, and indeed, that is what most of you chose. That is the right answer. 53% said we're going to use DNF to upgrade a software package. This is what you should probably be running all the time when you're ready to do updates. You simply run DNF upgrade and update, and it goes through the process of either upgrading or updating the packages that you already have. DNF is the right answer. You guys did a great job with that one. I think some of you may have remembered this one from last month, so congratulations for that. Let's shift gears a bit. We just did a multiple choice question. This is really the bulk of questions you get on the exam are these multiple choice questions where you get a question at the top here, and then there are multiple options to choose from. Even if you didn't know this answer, you still had a 20% chance of getting it right just by guessing. Well, CompTIA doesn't want to make it quite so easy for you to be able to guess your way through the exam. No free points. They want you to really work for them. So the very beginning of your A+ exam, you will get a handful of questions, somewhere around 5, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but you'll get a handful of questions that are not multiple choice. CompTIA refers to these as performance-based questions, PBQs. Performance-based questions are really anything but multiple choice. That's the definition of performance-based question. It could be a fill-in-the-blank question. It could be a question that's a drag and drop. It may be a pull-down menu of things. Maybe you have to answer things at a command line. There are a lot of ways to present questions. There's an unlimited way to present questions. So there's not any single format that you can study for a performance-based question, because a performance-based question can effectively be any type of format that they would like to present to you. The one thing that does help you is that performance-based questions are always asking you about topics that come directly from the official exam objectives. So as I like to say, if you know your objectives, it doesn't matter how they ask the question of you, you'll be able to answer it because you already know all of the content. So I think the best way to study for performance-based questions is to study the exam objectives themselves. And then if it's fill in the blank, they put you a command prompt, they want you to match something, they want to use pull-down windows, it doesn't matter. The pull-down menus are easy to navigate if you know the answer that you're looking for. So I have for you, as I do with every live study group, a brand new performance-based question of the month. I would like to now go through this question. This is more of a fill-in-the-blank question, but I will tell you that as I look at this question, I want to be sure I've got the right question here on my screen. I'm looking at my questions to see if they're correct as to what I have on my screen, and I'm not sure they are. So I'm going to look here real quick, and they're not. What I have on my screen does not match what you are going to see or should see on your screen. I know you're looking at two of me right now, but I want to be sure I give you the right screen of things, and these are not right. I wonder if they're right on my screen. Don't you love live events? Just when I have worked all the way through these, we've now got a study group. It's all set up on the screen, and no, I don't think these are right at all. What happened to my study? We may come back to this one because I want to show you this information that I have, but I don't want to repeat anything that I've given you previously. So we are going to loop back to this in the meantime. We're going to skip over our performance-based question of the month for the moment. And then we're going to see if what I am going through and looking at on my screen really matches this. Wouldn't that be great if nothing that I had here matched anything? I did check before we got started, just so you're aware. But that one didn't work out so well on my screen. Maybe I'll just take it through you manually. Maybe we can do that because everything else on my screen looks fine. So I'm not going to show you this on this screen. I'm going to show you on this side. And because what I have for you is sort of a different style of question that I've created. So we're going to do it this way. I have for you a performance-based question where I am asking you about topics of answering a question. Here we go. We're just going to do it. We'll do it live, everybody, if we're going to make it happen. We're doing this whole thing as if we know what's going on, as if we're a professional. Don't let anybody fool you. That's certainly not the case. So here's the question, the performance-based question I have for you today. This is one that is a fill-in-the-blank question, but it is a question that is based on commands that you should know from your exam objectives. And it's asking these in a different way than I've used before, which I kind of like. These are questions you tend to ask of yourself when you're sitting in front of the computer or somebody is asking a question of you. And I want you to tell me what command would answer this question for you. So here are the 5 questions that I have for you. I have these 5 that are asking, are we using the right subnet mask for this network? What is that? What is the answer to that one? What command would we use to determine the best answer for that question? It makes me sad that I don't have my builds on the screen, but that's okay. We'll work through it. The next one is, do we know if this hard drive can reliably store all of the data? Well, can we? I think you need to figure that out. What command would we use to be able to know if a hard drive can reliably store all of the data? That's the second one on our list. Next one on our list is the question, am I logged in with my normal account or my admin account? How many times have we asked ourselves this when we're working on somebody's workstation? Am I logged in as myself? Am I logged in as the user? Am I logged in as admin? What am I? I don't even remember. I'm at the command prompt. There's seven command prompts on the screen. Which one am I logged in as right now? How would you know? Give me one command that would answer that question. The next one is the installation file stored in the current directory? Well, how would we know? How could we determine this? Where could we figure that out? And I want you to tell me what the right answer is for that one. And we have also, lastly, is the server hosting the company website responding to network requests? Well, that's a pretty good one. Is the server hosting the company website, it's got to be an important server, is it responding to network requests? What would we use for that? Now, if you know the answers, you want to answer them online, I guess I could put up the link for you. There it is, professormesser.com/QA. You can at least lock in what you think the answers are for all of these. And now I have to remember what they are because I don't have them on the screen either. Maybe I should put them in at professormesser.com/QA. Yesterday, I was working on finalizing a lot of these. I got them all written up. I put them into my presentation. Now they're just missing. Now they're just gone, which is somewhat disconcerting because I really like it when my presentations are working properly. And in this case, not so much. Not really there. So we're just not going to use those. We're just going to keep this party going on to the next one. And I think I can remember what they are. Put all of these in there. We'll figure out the details. Yes, my malware. I have some type of malware that's embedded in my brain that apparently isn't saving the things. Or even better, did I dream the entire thing? Maybe that's what it was. It wasn't malware. It was me not realizing I was asleep at the time. That's what it was. So either way, we'll figure this out in post. We'll make it work. But in the meantime, I do remember what the answers are. And if I'm wrong, you can tell me. Your chat room most of the time is much smarter than I am anyway. So I rely on you for so much, chat room. Thank you for being there. You're my support. You're my support people. And figure out the details of this. See if you can answer some of these. This should be pretty good. This are also, I like the style of these questions because these are questions I often have to ask of myself when I am sitting in front of a computer and needing to determine, okay, here's a problem. How do I solve this problem? This is what we do every day. This is the job of a technician. This is why we love this job, is we like to solve puzzles. That's what we do. And these are definitely puzzle questions. Here is a problem. What do I type into this problem? What is it going to be? And if we know, then we can put that answer in and submit it using that link on your screen, professormesser.com/QA. If we don't know, well, it's a different kind of problem, I guess. We'll have to work through that. And if I don't know, then we are in trouble because I'm the one that wrote these from the very beginning. That's a challenge, of course, for all of us. So let's try to step through each one of these and answer what Windows command we would use. You will not see these Windows commands on your screen, but you will certainly, we'll talk through each one. And I think some of these, I can even give you an alternate command. In fact, I should bring up on my screen all of the commands that are in the official exam objectives, just so we can make sure we get the right ones, which is over there. So let's go through this list. First one on our list is, and then remember, this is a Windows computer. That's an important part of this question. It says, are we using the right subnet mask for this network? This is something you run into all the time. You're setting up a new system. You're installing a new firewall. You're installing a new server. And they've given you an IP address, a subnet mask, and a default gateway to use. Maybe this is something we are manually putting these in instead of using a DHCP server, which occasionally you will want to do. Sometimes you will want to use a statically configured, manually configured address on that device. So the question will be, hey, it's not acting the way we want. Did we put the right subnet mask in? Because here they're using a different subnet mask than what you might think it would be. Oh, let's find out. Let me type ipconfig. So our answer for that first question is we would use ipconfig to be able to use the right subnet mask to determine if we're using the right subnet mask for this network. This would also confirm that we're using the right IP address, the right DNS server, and any other details about the networking configuration are in the ipconfig command. So using the right subnet mask, ipconfig is what we would use. Next on our list is, do we know if this hard drive can reliably store all of the data? Maybe it's a computer that we just pulled out of storage and we've turned it on for the first time in years, and we don't really know where that machine came from, why that machine is even here. Or maybe somebody came by with a box of hard drives, they plopped them down and said, here's a bunch of hard drives for your new NAS, for your new SAN. You might want to install those. Yeah, but how do we know those hard drives are really going to work? How do we know that they're able to read and write reliably from that device? Well, what we want to run is the check disk command, chkdsk, specifically a check disk /r. That's the one that we would want to use to be able to perform a surface scan of the device. We're not only checking the logical index of that drive, because that's really what check disk was originally designed to do with a check disk -f. It simply checks the file system integrity. It checks the logical configuration, sort of like checking the table of contents of a book and making sure the table of contents matches everything else that's in the book. That's really what check disk does with the /f. When you're running a /r, now it goes through and it really looks at every part of the drive, tries reading and writing from every sector to make sure that the drive is working the way you would expect. And that's really helpful to confirm that that drive seems to be working just fine. We can use that one on our new server, on our new NAS, or whatever it happens to be. Next on our list is, am I logged in with my normal account or my admin account? I gave the example of having 7 or 8 different console windows up on your screen. This is a normal day in my life, so I might have Linux servers here and Windows servers here and logged into someone's workstation and logged into my own workstation, and then I need to delete a file. I need to make a change to a configuration. I need to modify a system, and then I go to a window and I suddenly realize, I'm not sure exactly where I'm typing this in. Am I typing it into a server? Am I typing this into my local workstation? Am I typing this into somebody's workstation? I wonder who I'm logged in as right now on the system. Let's find out who I'm logged in as. So I will type, who am I? Who am I? That is the command, all one word. Who am I? And that is a great one to use in Windows. So it will tell you simply at the command prompt who you're logged in as at this very moment. You might even want to use that in conjunction with the hostname command to know what host you are connected to. So a little bit of a different question, but a similar type of command that can give you more information about the name of the system that is associated with the window that you are using. Next on our list is the installation file stored in the current directory? Maybe we are installing some new software. We've just downloaded the new software from the internet. We are ready to install the software, but are we in the right directory to install that software? Is the setup.exe or the install.exe that's there, is it in this directory or not? How would we know? Well, we would simply use the dir command. That is the directory command. It lists out all of the files and folders that are in our current working directory, and that will tell us. We can list out everything that's here, and we can see, oh, there's setup.exe right there. Let's run that setup.exe and update the installation of that system. And then lastly, we've got, is the server hosting the company website responding to network requests? Now, this could be any type of network request. It could be someone who just wants to know if that system is up and running. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to check to see if the website service is running. That's a different question, a little bit higher level. We just want to know, are we connected to the network? Are we getting any type of response from that device across the network? If there was only some way to send it an ICMP request, an echo request, and get an ICMP echo response back, that would be great. How could we do? Well, we could use the ping command. That's exactly what we would use. So you could ping the server that is hosting the company website to see if we get a response to that ping. And that is a very easy way to determine if it's even alive on the network. If we don't get a ping, then we have other problems that we need to consider. If we do get an answer to our ping, then we might want to go to a higher level and look at the performance or availability of the service that is running on that device. So those are the 5 command lines I was hoping you'd be able to immediately think about when you ran into these types of problems. To summarize, are we using the right subnet mask for this network? ipconfig will tell you. Do we know if this hard drive can reliably store all of the data? Check disk. Ideally, check disk with the /r is a good one to use. Am I logged in with my normal account or my admin account? Well, who am I? No, really, who am I? That's the command that we would use to be able to find that out. The next is the installation file stored in the current directory? The dir command for directory will tell us that. And is the server hosting the company website responding to network requests? That is a ping command. So hopefully you were able to get through all 5 of those. If you got any of them wrong, be sure to go back and look at the official CompTIA exam objectives. It lists out a number of different Windows commands you need to know, not just this 5, but many, many others that are in there as well. And you need to know not only operating system specific commands, There are also a number of network-related commands as well. You can find those all in the exam objectives. And of course, we have videos that demonstrate every single one of these, so you can see how to use these at the command line. You can even follow along with us and do the same thing on your computer to see how it might work on your system. That's your performance-based question of the month. Hopefully you did pretty well on that. And I think if you're someone like me who kind of struggles sometimes to remember what some of these commands are, this might be a good test for you, because it's not about just knowing the command or knowing the abbreviation of the command. You will be expected to be able to apply these in a practical way. So applying these in a practical way may involve us answering questions like these. So that's another great place to go. If you're working through commands, try to ask yourself, when would you use this command? How is this command being implemented? What type of technology would this allow me? What problem would this allow me to solve? So a good place to go with this. Thank you for allowing me to limp through our performance-based question of the month. Now let's shift gears back to multiple choice questions. And the next one I have for you is this one that asks, a technician believes a mobile app upgrade suffers from a memory leak. Which of the following would be the best way to troubleshoot this issue? Would it be verify the App Store download, deploy an MDM policy, disconnect from cloud services, enable developer mode, or restart the mobile device? Got a few things to do. This is a technician who believes a mobile app upgrade suffers from a memory leak. We'll talk about that in a moment too. Which of the following would be the best way to troubleshoot this issue? Should we verify the App Store download, deploy an MDM policy, disconnect from cloud services, enable developer mode, or restart the mobile device? If you think you know the answer, go to the link on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, to lock in your answer. And I actually have all of my slideware for this one. We're back on track, everybody. We're past whatever horrible thing has occurred with my presentation. So sometimes the pretty pictures are just going to have to sit to the side while we work through the actual content. In a way, a little bit more focused, I think. So, and more things that I have to worry about on my side anyway. That's the beauty of setting up for a live event, I guess. I have run into this type of problem before. Memory leaks are nothing to miss. These are things that really will affect you when you're working on a system. So this might be an important process or an important set of steps to keep in mind if you're troubleshooting this type of problem. Let's go through the answers that you provided and see how you did. The question asks, a technician believes a mobile app upgrade suffers from a memory leak. Which of the following would be the best way to troubleshoot this issue? Should we verify the App Store download? Should we deploy an MDM policy? Should we disconnect from cloud services? Should we enable developer mode? Or should we restart the mobile device? Let's close our poll and see how we did. Rainbows, everybody. We aren't quite sure where to go with this one. So we're going to have a look at the answers you gave. We have a tie for first place. 26% of you say to verify the App Store download. 26% of you also say to restart the mobile device. We have 23% of you that said to enable developer mode. 15% said to deploy an MDM policy. And 10% said to disconnect from cloud services. Mobile apps are a challenge. You have very little visibility into the mechanics of these mobile devices unless you know where to look. And a memory leak just adds another level of complexity. A memory leak is an application that when it starts up, it allocates a certain amount of memory. And then as it's performing tasks, it's using more and more memory. But the way an application is supposed to work is once it's finished using that memory, it's supposed to release the memory for other applications to use. But a poorly written application will continue to use memory and not release it. And eventually, the application has taken over 100% of the memory availability on that system, causing the operating system and other applications to not only act poorly, but in many cases to fail completely. So here's the problem you have as a technician. Your problem isn't to simply fix the symptom. You need to fix the problem. Is your idea, you believe that the mobile app is having a memory leak, but is it really? The only way to tell is if you look at the detailed memory statistics for this device. And so one of the things that you might want to consider doing if you want to get some insight into the health of the system, into how much an application is being used, how much CPU it's using, how much memory it's using, is to use a function of that mobile device known as developer mode. Developer mode is a way that you, as a technician, can get more insight into what's happening under the surface. That section of the operating system that normally is invisible to us because, quite honestly, that's the way we want it. These phones are incredibly complex devices, and we want to be able to present a very easy-to-use interface to folks. And when we do that, we're hiding a lot of detailed statistics. One way that you can view those statistics is to use developer mode for your system. If it's iOS or iPad OS or anything in the Apple ecosystem, you may want to use Xcode. That is the coding front end that is used to create applications, but it's also a free application that you can load on your own Mac OS device, and you can connect your phone or your iPad into your system just via USB, and you can view all of the logs and all of the statistics and all of the information that gives you a little more insight into the way that operating system might be running. We also have Android. Android has a different way to do it. You go to the settings connection and click about the phone, and then you, not making this up, you tap the build number on that screen 7 times. That's your secret to get into developer mode on an Android device. And it can give you a lot of great information. If you're troubleshooting a problem with a mobile device, this level of detail that we're so accustomed to getting from a desktop system, now we have access to that same level of detail, or at least similar level of detail on our mobile device. So we're so used to going into Task Manager. That's where we would go if this was in Windows. You just open Task Manager. If you are in Mac OS, then you're probably going down to the, what do they call it in Mac OS? Not Task Manager, it's your Activity Monitor. So I had to look at my own Mac just to know that you use it so often, you almost forget what it's called. But those are not available on your iPhone. Those are not available on your Android. So developer mode is exactly what you should be looking for. That is the answer that we were hoping to find. And 23% of you, not even the plurality of you, got that one right. But what about these other answers? We had a lot of people answer these others. So what would it be? Verifying the App Store download. If you think an app has a problem, being able to verify that you downloaded the app in the App Store doesn't give you any information about whether the application is really having a problem. All it's really telling you is, yes, you downloaded it. Well, I know I downloaded it. It's on my phone. I didn't really need to verify that I downloaded it. And indeed, it really doesn't tell you anything about the performance of this device or of the application. It also doesn't tell you if there really is or is not a memory leak. It doesn't really move that rock any further along. We need to get a little more detail, which is why developer mode would be the right answer. 26% of you also said restart the mobile device. There you go. It's the international solution. Have you turned it off and back on again? Which in the case of a memory leak, that fixes the memory leak because it now clears out memory and starts everything over from the beginning. But it doesn't actually fix anything, does it? If you really have a memory leak, you're just going to start leaking the memory again, and it will get to a certain point, and the person who's having the problem will come back to you again after a few hours, a few days, and say, I'm having the same problem again. All you're doing, as I mentioned earlier, is fixing the symptom, but you're not fixing the problem. And the question wasn't about how do you get this system back up and running as quickly as possible. That wasn't what we were trying to do. The question asks, which of the following would be the best way to troubleshoot this issue? Restarting the mobile device is actually the opposite of that. We don't want to troubleshoot. I don't even care if it's doing a memory leak. I don't have any statistics. In fact, I'm just guessing. Let's just restart it. Who cares what the problem is after all? We'll just restart it and hope for the best. Not a great way to do troubleshooting, and certainly not the best way to troubleshoot this issue. Having a developer mode and getting more statistics about the memory usage in your system would be a much better way to troubleshoot a potential memory leak issue. Deploying an MDM policy. MDM obviously stands for Mobile Device Manager. This is how we manage many of our phones and tablets in an enterprise environment. But one of the challenges is, what are you going to deploy? What policy is going to help you understand if a memory leak is happening or not? Are you going to turn off the camera? Are you going to just sort of guess? We're just going to, let's turn some things on and off. Let's start moving things around. Let's pull some levers. Let's hit some buttons. Maybe one of those levers and one of those buttons will fix the problem. It won't. This is really a memory leak. It really doesn't matter what policy you send to your device. It's not going to help you troubleshoot what's going on here. And then lastly, disconnect from cloud services. Probably a bad idea in general. There's a lot of value being connected to those cloud services. A backup option, for example, is a very good reason to be connected to cloud services, and being able to synchronize everything that you're doing across all of your devices is also important. And disconnecting from cloud services doesn't help you troubleshoot the memory leak. If anything, you're now changing the environment, and you could potentially be limiting your troubleshooting for this particular problem. So this is why you want to focus on where the most amount of information is to be able to gather details about this problem. The only answer that gave you any way to troubleshoot this issue is enable developer mode. 23% of you got that one absolutely right. So this is one, if you're not familiar with developer mode, now's the time that you need to grab your device, plug it in. If you have an iOS device, you'll need Mac OS to be able to do this. But if you have an Android, you can do it right now just by tapping on that build number 7 times. Maybe that's where we would go with that one. Let's do another question. Let's bounce back from that one, shall we? I think that's a great idea. This next question asks, which of the following backup tasks keeps one copy of the backup off-site? Which of the following backup tasks keeps one copy of the backup off-site? Would that be the 3-2-1 rule, a synthetic backup, GFS, differential backup, or full backup? It's got to be one of these, right? There's five potential answers. Maybe you know this one. Again, the question asks, which of the following backup tasks keeps one copy of the backup off-site? Would it be the 3-2-1 rule, synthetic backup, GFS, differential backup, or full backup? If you think you know the answer, please know answers in the chat room. Please know hints in the chat room. You instead want to go to the link on your screen, professormusser.com/QA, to lock in your answer. This might be, if you've worked with backups at all, maybe this one is an easy one for you. If you've never worked with backups at all, this is going to be an important one to learn. You might run into this when you start getting into other types of environments where you have many backups and many backup types and all of those different pieces. See if you happen to know what this one is. A lot of people getting their answers in. Are we going to bounce back? I think we'll do better than 26% or 28. What did we do? 26% on the last one. I think we're going to do well on this one. I have a good feeling about this one. So we're going to go through what they happen to be. A lot of people have already got their answers in. So let's see if you know. The question again asks, which of the following backup tasks keeps one copy of the backup off-site? Would it be the 3-2-1 rule, a synthetic backup, GFS, differential backup, or full backup? Well, let's see what you answered. I can't wait. Let's click the button, close the poll, and 72% say the answer is the 3-2-1 rule. We either bounced back really well with a high number, or we did really, really poorly. We're about to find out. We only got single digits for everything else. 9% for full backup, 7% for differential, 7% for synthetic, and only 5% said GFS. Are we thinking right now we made a horrible decision and we really should have gone with GFS, the 5%? Well, fortunately, the 72% of you got this one absolutely correct. It is indeed the 3-2-1 backup rule. That doesn't even sound like a thing. It's that show on PBS in the afternoons the 3-2-1 contact. We have 3 copies of data should always be available somewhere on your system. That's the 3 of the 3-2-1 rule. 3 is 3 copies available in some way. Usually this is a primary backup and 2 additional backups that you might have. The 2 in the 3-2-1 rules that we need 2 different types of media. So normally you might back up to tape, or normally you might back up to disk. Well, you need more than just 3 copies on tape. You need more than just 3 copies on disk. You need at least 1 copy in one media and 1 copy in another. Maybe it's optical. Maybe it's tape. Maybe it is disk. Maybe it's SSD. There needs to be at least 2 different types of media for these different backups. And the one, at least in this particular case, is that 1 copy of this backup should not be where you are. This just makes sense because something could happen to the building that you're in. You go home from work and overnight a rat chews through an electrical cord and the entire building goes up in flames along with all of your backups. But that's okay because you followed the 3-2-1 rule, and one of those backups is always kept off-site. So that rat may have destroyed the entire building, but did not destroy your backups because you were smart enough to use the 3-2-1 backup rule. And indeed, that's what most of you chose in this case, the 3-2-1 rule. But what about these other answers? Which of the following backup types keeps 1 copy of the backup offsite? We had 9 people that said a full backup. A full backup describes the type of data and the amount of data that you're backing up during a single backup session. A full backup means you're backing up everything that is on a system. But that doesn't mean that you're keeping it offsite. It just means that you backed up everything on a system. You might keep all of those things in one place in the same building. So that would not be the answer that we were looking for. 7% said a synthetic backup. A synthetic backup is one that takes different backups that you've made over time and creates a full backup from all of those different backups that you've done previously. It's a very quick and easy way to effectively create a full backup without having to provide or go through the process of a full backup. It saves a lot of time. And so, although it's extremely useful for saving time, it doesn't talk about where you're storing the backup. So not the answer we're looking for. Differential backup, also a different type of backup that's backing up the differential in data every day or every hour or whatever that sequence is that you've set up. The differential backup, again, does not tell you where you are storing the data, however, so it would not be the answer to this question. And lastly, GFS. GFS is the grandfather, father, and son. It's a method of backing up that helps with the scheduling of backups. It describes the type of backups that you're creating and when you're creating them. So a grandfather backup, for example, might be a full backup you're creating every month, and you're keeping those 12 monthly updates in your safe somewhere. Maybe you're keeping them in the building, but you have 12 of those because you do one every month. The father backups may be a backup that you do every week. So you might have 52 of those. And then a son backup you might do every day. So you might have 365 son backups. This allows you to have different versions of backups and different types of restore points that you can go to. And you can, of course, choose to keep those offsite, but you could choose to keep them on site as well. The GFS doesn't have any type of requirement or guidance about where you keep the backups, which means the only answer that could have been right for this one is indeed the 3-2-1 rule. That is what we were hoping for. That 1 in the 3-2-1 rule means that we keep 1 copy of the backup somewhere that we are not. We are having it offsite, stored safely in case something does happen to our primary facility. There are a lot of different topics on this exam. You've already seen a few of them already. Of course, our entire course is available for you to watch for free. You can see that there are 137 A-plus videos in our course. That is a lot of videos in a single course. And of course, that means that there's going to be about 19 hours of content across both of the Core 1 and Core 2 exam training courses that we provide. This means that you're going to be learning a lot of different topics from a lot of different places. Things like hardware and networking, command lines and mobile devices and security, and it's all in there. The troubleshooting, we've already talked about some of these topics already today. But one of the challenges you have is once you finish all the videos, how do you remember all of the things that you went through? Well, fortunately, I have taken all of this very important data that we have in our video courses, and I've created a series of course notes from this. The course notes book contains, here's the index of everything that we have, 68 pages in our core 2. And you can see that all of the text from these videos is there, the important graphics, the tables, anything that has to do with the important parts of those topics are contained within these, and they're following the same format and the same structure as the videos that you're already watching. I not only have these available in a digital format PDF, they're also available for a printed format, which is obviously identical to the PDF, but it's something you can take along with you. And if you get these and purchase them in conjunction with the Core 1 study group or the Core 1 course notes, then this book is a little bit less. You save a little bit of money when you buy them together, along with purchasing maybe my practice exams along with them. You have different options there that you could choose. We'll talk more about the practice exams in a bit, but that gives you some ideas about how you might want to go through your study process once you've gone through the videos, you've read a good book, you're working through all of the details of this. So that is where you would go to be able to have something that you can use as a quick reference guide. Maybe that's something you can take even into the exam with you as you're sitting in the waiting room, your last minute studies. You can always reference this book and see what type of topics you need to keep in mind before you walk into that room. Obviously, can't use these on the exam themselves. Sadly, you'll just have to remember everything that's in there. Might be another good way to help you with your studies. It certainly is a great way to help us as well. That's a win-win in my book. Find out more, go to ProfessorMesser.com/1202 notes, or simply use the menus at the top of the Professor Messer website. Let's go to another question, shall we? I need to get into this next question that we have. I need to see what this next question is and see if it's the right question. I'm now questioning myself. Fortunately, it is the right question. Let's see how you do on this one. It's a question that asks, a Windows laptop is performing slowly and input is delayed. Which of the following would be the best way to view real-time CPU utilization for the last 60 seconds? Would that be Device Manager, Task Scheduler, Event Viewer, Task Manager, Group Policy Editor? It's got to be one of these, right? Let's see how we did with this. The question asks, a Windows laptop is performing slowly and input is delayed. Which of the following would be the best way to view real-time CPU utilization for the last 60 seconds? Would it be Device Manager, Task Scheduler, Event Viewer, Task Manager, or Group Policy Editor? Lock in your answer. A lot of people lock them in quick on this one. I wonder if we are going one direction or another. I try not to watch the results. I have a way behind the scenes that I can see the results coming in real time. I don't like to look at those. One of the main reasons I don't like to look at them is that I can't, because they're behind this screen, which you're seeing on your screen. I guess I could go back here and then sneak a look and then come back to this, but then what's the fun of that? I like to see it when you see it as well. Let's see how you did with this one. The question asks, a Windows laptop is performing slowly and input is delayed. Which of the following would be the best way to view real-time CPU utilization for the last 60 seconds? Is that Device Manager, Task Scheduler, Event Viewer, Task Manager, or Group Policy Editor? Let's see what you answered on your screen. We'll close our poll and see 74%. That's a big number. Say the answer is Task Manager. 18% say the answer is Event Viewer. And then we go to single digits. 4% for Task Scheduler, 4% for Device Manager, and sadly, 0% for Group Policy Editor. Not what we were really hoping for there. Well, performance is always a question, especially when you get that inevitable call, that very common call that says, my network is slow. Well, it's not really the network. It's probably your system. It probably isn't the network. It's probably, is it DNS? We don't know yet. But we want to check to see, is your system running optimally? Are you low on memory? Is the CPU being hit by something? Is something happening that's creating a problem? So you'll sit down at that computer and you'll load up Task Manager and be able to see this. The key for this question is we wanted to see in real time what was going on. Ideally over the last 60 seconds, which was another clue for you, because for those of you that have used Task Manager, you know you've got this great little performance tab, and notice that the maximum amount of time for this performance tab, 60 seconds. So that's where I got the 60 seconds from. So I was referencing this screen of Task Manager, and it's updating this information every second. So this really is a real-time view of what's going on. You can see, is the CPU utilized highly? Well, if we're looking at this 100% on the top end, 0 on the bottom, it's not, we really have not been pushing this system very heavily. There's a little bit of work that happened there, but then it's back down at the bottom again. We're not really hitting the system from a CPU perspective. We can also see in real time on the little thumbnails on the left side, memory is not at a high utilization, very low, 23%. The disk access, relatively low as well. And the Ethernet access, the network connection itself, not really very high. So if this system, somebody was complaining, it's slow, it's sluggish, I can't use it. Well, where are you connected? Oh, I'm connecting to Gmail, and Gmail is slow and sluggish. Well, it doesn't seem to be your local system. So let's look at the network. Let's look at Gmail itself. There might be a problem associated with that. And this is a fantastic tool to be able to see that information. And this is a great real-time response. Now, this is not designed to give you an all-day, 24-hour perspective of the performance of the system. If you did want to monitor over a much longer time frame, then you'll probably want to use Performance Monitor, which is really designed for that long-term view of analyzing hundreds and hundreds of different metrics and statistics from your Windows system. So if you just want to know right now, tell me right now how the system's running, Task Manager is absolutely the thing that you would like to use. This is the right answer. 74% of you chose Task Manager. Well, you were right. That's exactly what you would use. 18% of you said Event Viewer. That sounds like something I would like to use, Event Viewer, for this. But Event Viewer in Windows is effectively the log viewer. That allows you to see every log entry that's made for the Windows operating system, for your applications, for security events, for everything that is happening in your system. And Event Viewer is a massive, massive database of events. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes we never see. So one of the things about Event Viewer is really being able to understand details about what might be there, but it's a horrible way to view real-time performance. All it's really doing, you try to view it in real time, you just see log files streaming by as things are happening behind the scenes in your Windows system. Not a great way to view real-time CPU utilization, but it is a great way to go back and see detailed events that may have occurred in the past. Not exactly what we were looking for. The 18% of you chose that one. Unfortunately, not the right answer. 4% of you said Device Manager. That sounds like what we want to do. We have a device, we want to manage it. And in reality, of course, the Windows Device Manager is giving us a front end to the device drivers that we are using. Device drivers are the software that is the link between our operating system and the hardware of our computer. For example, if you plug in a USB hub that you've got extra USB interfaces on, Windows doesn't know how to use that USB hub by itself. Microsoft didn't make that USB hub. They didn't build any extra software into Windows to use that USB hub. So how does the USB hub and Windows somehow connect to each other? How do we make it so that Windows can use that hub? We have software that we load onto our operating system called a device driver. That is the connection. That is the software that connects into our operating system that tells it how to use that USB hub. Works the same for all of the hardware in your system, but it doesn't tell you anything about performance. So Device Manager would not be the answer we were looking for. Task Scheduler is a way that you can run different applications, events, or scripts at a certain time of day or certain day of the week. It's a great way to automate things that occur in your system, but it doesn't tell you anything about performance. So Task Scheduler won't tell you anything about real-time CPU utilization. And then we have Group Policy Editor, which nobody chose, but Group Policy Editor is a great way to define policies that you can then push out to all of your systems to manage better. Maybe you would like to create a policy that says all passwords used on our network must be 12 characters or more. You can push a policy down to everybody's computer, and now everybody has to have a password that is 12 characters or more. Practically every aspect of the Windows operating system can be controlled using group policy and the group policy editor. This is the secret sauce that's not really that secret. This is what drives Windows to be that primary operating system in the enterprise, is that level of management where you can manage hundreds of thousands of devices all from one single screen using group policy. Very, very powerful and provides you with functionality that you normally would not have in an operating system. However, Group Policy Editor does not show you real-time CPU utilization. That's not going to help you very much. That's definitely not going to be the answer. And none of you, not hurting anyone's feelings on that one, nobody got that one right and nobody got that one wrong because nobody chose it. The answer here, the one that very obviously most of you chose, 74% say the answer is Task Manager. You got that one absolutely correct. Well done. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour, but let's get one more question in, shall we? I think we should be able to do that. This question, however, is not one that I made up by sitting here and apparently not saving things onto my presentation. This is a question that comes from my practice exams book. Now, some of you may not have seen this practice exams book before. I wrote this book because I was looking at practice exams on the internet and just was not very pleased with what I was seeing. And even today, to this very day, I see practice exams available on the internet and available from third-party sources that you purchase that contain out-of-date information, in some cases completely inaccurate information, and that is not a very good thing to study from if you're hoping to pass one of these industry certifications. You want to be sure that the information you're studying is up to date and that the information that you're studying is accurate. So this is why I thought, well, if there's not something out there doing this now, let's make something that does. Not only do I tell you that every single question in here is vetted, I detailed everything in here, went question by question to ensure that every question and every answer conforms to the official exam objectives. I also wrote the questions in a style and in a form that is very similar to the tone that you will have on the actual exam. So that way you're not just getting simplified one-sentence questions that aren't really testing you on what you will expect when you walk into the exam room. So I try to hit a lot of different points with this, but I have for you a question from my practice exams book that I would like to go through. Let's see how you do with this one. Please keep in mind the same rules are in place. Please do not answer in the chat room. Please don't put any hints in the chat room. We will not be answering this one online because it is in our book here, but we will go through the questions and the answers and I'll show it to you. Here's the practice exams PDF. Of course, you could get this in a physical format as well. It contains exactly the same content. This is a question from the very first set of questions, the practice exam A in my book. This is on page 17, and it's question A48, and it asks, a computer on a manufacturing floor has been identified as a malware-infected system. Which of the following would be the best next step to resolve this issue? Should we disconnect the network cable, perform a malware scan, disable system restore, or download the latest anti-malware signatures? Those are the options available to us. Now, this is a PDF by default. That's so that the most number of people possible would be able to access and use this content, but it also allows us some interesting functions that you normally would not have. For example, you can annotate this any way you'd like. If you're using a stylus, you can write on it. If you've got a mouse, you can certainly highlight things on the screen. Maybe there's certain topics or things you would like to circle or highlight along with this. It's a great way to go through and understand what the different options might be for coming back to this later and really looking at what we were studying. Also, you'll notice that if you just want to know whether the answer is A, B, C, or D, you can go to page 33, which is the quick answer. But I want more detail about this answer. Those are on page 86. Well, as you already saw, we're on page 17. And one of the most difficult things to deal with in a PDF is having to go to another page, scroll, get on that page, and then scroll all the way back. I hate doing that. So what I did in my book is I created links that are right here on the page. So when you mouse over the details, you can click that and it moves to page 86 immediately. You can see right here at the top, we have the question that we were asked earlier, and it tells us that the answer is A, disconnect the network cable. And like many books and many practice exams that you will find, disconnecting the network cable being the right answer, you get an explanation about why the right answer is right. Fantastic. But what if you got the answer wrong? What if you chose something other than A? Maybe you chose B or C or D. One of the challenges when you get a question wrong, it's an opportunity. We always think of wrong practice question. Oh, I got that question wrong as a failure. But in reality, the wrong answers very often will teach you a lot more than the right answers. And hopefully you'll get a feel for that as you go through this book. When you get an answer wrong, you can scroll down a bit and I document every incorrect answer as well. So if you get a question wrong, you will know why you got that question wrong. I'll also recommend to you who already have this book, if you get a question right, please read through the wrong answers as well. I know you didn't choose the wrong answers. Maybe you don't need any guidance, but if any of these topics like performing a malware scan, disabling system restore, or downloading the signature shows up on your exam, you've now learned a little bit of those topics as well. This is almost like getting 4 different topics in a single question. So now you have an idea of why the right answer is right. Now you know why the wrong answer is wrong. But what if you read the question, you didn't understand any of it, which happens to me quite a bit. You can scroll down even more and you have a link to the video that was used to originally create the question. So you can now watch the video again, learn a lot about this topic, then maybe come back to the question and be able to answer it again. Once we are done here, we can probably click the back arrow here. Did you know that your PDF reader has a back arrow? Most PDF readers do. You'll need to look at the documentation for your PDF reader to find out. But we click the back button and we're back to where we started. There you go. Now you're back to the original place and you can go to the next question that's on your list and perform the process again. That is my practice exams book. This is a great way to test yourself. Once you've watched the videos, you've read a good book, maybe done some labs, you can now go through and see, did any of it stick? Is any of it what I need to remember for the exam? And you're now getting kind of a feel and a style of the actual exam questions. I have in this book not only multiple choice questions, but also performance-based questions. There are 5 performance-based questions in each exam. There are 3 exams, which means a total of 15 performance-based questions in this book. So if this is something you think you would like, you may want to check that out. It's over on the website, professormesser.com/core2PE. That's our Core 2 practice exams. And of course, you can always have a look from the main menus. We have links to it there as well. It's a great way to prepare yourself for the exam process itself. And this is, we have not only this available for the Core 2 exam, we also have it for the Core 1. You can even get them as a combo on the website. Well, I've talked all this time about the official practice exams. You need to make sure you look at the practice exam topics. Make sure you've gone through the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of topics in the practice exams. That's because it is a very important document. And did you know it's free? There's nothing you need to pay to get your hand on this practice exam or the exam objective document. It is a valuable document. I'll show you why in just a moment. You can find an easy link to the objectives on my website. Go to professormesser.com/objectives, and I give you instructions and a link of where you would find this on the CompTIA website. So if you're having problems finding it on the CompTIA website, they've almost hidden it on the website. It's so valuable, you need to know where it is. I have a graphic on that page that tells you exactly where it is. Why is this so useful and important? Let me show it to you. This is the set of exam objectives. I've already downloaded it. And you can see there are hundreds and hundreds of bullets here. So for example, in the very first domain, 1.0 of operating systems, there is a subsection 1.1 that says explain common operating system types and their purposes. And it shows you Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Chrome OS. For mobile, it shows you iPad OS, iOS, and Android. So if you come across a third-party website out there on the internet somewhere that is trying to teach you about the mobile version of Windows. You're probably reading from very outdated content. You need to stick with the bullets that are listed here because CompTIA does not deviate from this list. I should say very, 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 very rarely do they ever deviate from this list, which makes this the ultimate list of what you need to know. So people often come to my website and they say, what do I really need to know to pass this exam? And my answer, as you've probably seen every time, is go download the exam objectives. This is your checklist. So if you can go through this list, let's do this. We're in the PDF reader after all. And let's say that I am really solid on what Windows is. I use Windows a lot. So we're going to choose Windows for this. Let's turn on our annotation so I can even annotate some of these. So the annotation doesn't work super great in my PDF reader and this one, but you can maybe mark some things in green. Maybe if it's a topic I'm not super good on, maybe I could put that one in yellow just so I can come back to it. And if I come across a topic where I don't even know what you're talking about with that one, we can come down and say, yeah, I need to really study that one. We'll mark it in red. So there's a good example of how you might want to use the exam objectives as a study tool. It might be a good way to give you some visual feedback on where you need to focus your efforts, especially if you got like a week left before you're planning to take your exam. This is your checklist. So you might want to have a look at that. That's a very, very valuable tool. And as I mentioned, absolutely free. Have a look at our website, professormesser.com/objectives for more. We have also one of these study groups that we like to do every month. And in February, we have our list here. You can see that we're on the 5th now. We also have the 13th and the 18th for our Network Plus study group and Security Plus study group. Although I don't have the March dates up here right now because this is the same effective calendar as March. Watch what I'm going to do here. Now just change the February to a March, and now you're looking at the March numbers. So this is really March and not February because I moved this over to be the 3rd and 5th of March, the 11th of March, and the 18th of March for the similar dates. For what we are doing here for February, though, notice that our February date for Network Plus next week has changed just a little bit. It used to be on the 11th. It's now been moved to Friday the 13th, as if networking wasn't scary enough. So we've got that also available. That will be something you can have a look at on the 13th next week. Come back on Friday. We'll have a bunch of brand new Network Plus questions for you as well. Well, our first hour is over, but we're not done yet. We have our whole after show ready to go. I've asked you questions this whole time. It seems only fair that you should ask me questions. And that's what we do in our after show. You use that same link we had earlier. There it is, professormesser.com/QA. That link is the one you will use if you'd like to submit a question for our after show. I'll take questions about certifications, about IT, about anything you'd like to talk about. What I'm watching on TV? Nothing. What we're doing in my spare time? What is spare time? I'm not familiar. You can always ask those. We'll see if we have answers for them. We also have our Core 2 course notes and practice exams on our website. This might be something that can help you. And it's a great way to support the things that we are doing here. You can go to professormesser.com/1202success. If you are in the U.S. or Canada or a U.S. territory, I'd like to save you some money on your voucher. They're already discounted on my website. You don't need a coupon code. You don't need anything special to load into your browser. You simply visit the link, professormesser.com/vouchers, and you can get the same vouchers that you would get on the CompTIA website, but you're now paying less. Find out more at professormesser.com/vouchers. And if you're on the internet, hey, we're on the internet too. We should study together. That would be great. Go to professormesser.com/ the name of the site you would like to find us on, /Discord, /X, /LinkedIn, /Facebook, /YouTube, /Instagram. You get the idea. Go to professormesser.com/ the name of the site that you like to visit, and hopefully we're there as well. If we're not, send me a note. We can do that as well. And since we're also at the end of our first hour, this is a perfect time to keep in mind that you might want to earn a CEU credit. One of the ways that you would do that, or the way that you would do that, is to follow these instructions. Go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link on your system, and in the Contact Us link, put your name, your email address, and the subject line, please put it's the February 2026 Core 2. And in the body of the message on a line by itself, put the super secret code words of the month. Let's find one even on this screen. We're going to look for the super secret code words, course notes, practice exams. Just pull it from the slide. Course notes, practice exams. Those are your super secret code words of the month. Again, if you'd like to know how to do this, you go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. You click the link for Contact Us. It's going to bring up a Contact Us field, a form that's on the page. Put in your name, your email address. In the subject line, put February 2026 Core 2, or something close to that, because I need to know where this came from. And in the body of the message, put the super secret code words of the month, course notes, practice exams. And then send that to me. It takes me about a week to turn these around. Sometimes I'm a little faster, sometimes a little slower, but we'll get them to you eventually. And you will get a copy of an email that certifies that you are here for a 1-hour webinar category CEU. Well, that brings us to the end of our first hour of the study group. Stick around for the after show. Thank you so much for being here in this first hour. We do enjoy doing these live streams, and we could not do it without you. Thanks for being here, and we will see you next time on the A+ study group. Now is the time where I take a sip. One moment, please. And now it's time for you to submit your questions to me. That's right. If there's ever anything you wanted to know about me, you could probably keep that to yourself. But if you have other questions, you can submit them at any time by visiting that same link we've been using this entire time, professormesser.com/QA. Be a great way for you to submit those. Those will be shown behind the scenes. I will see all of the questions that you have there. And this is also a great way for you if you have questions about IT, you have questions about things you've seen in the industry, you have questions about an event that has recently occurred. This would be a great way to find out more about that or to ask questions about it. This says you can submit questions for the second hour of the study group at any time, which you can. Some of you already have. Thank you for submitting those. We will be moderating questions during the session, so your contribution will probably not appear on the screen immediately, but it will appear eventually. Do not worry. We will get to it at some point. Hopefully, we will get to it at some point. So we'll go through that process. Let's sift through the questions that you have sent so far. I just click a few buttons on my side, and we can go through the process of knowing when those would be. Thank you for submitting these, by the way. We appreciate you putting those in and finding out and asking questions of things that we are doing here. Can be very, very useful. Let's talk about getting a job in IT. This is a challenge sometimes to find the right way to do it. Oh dear, I think I've already archived the question I wanted to provide to you. Let's bring it back, everybody. There we go. This is a question from Con who asks, hello, Professor, what kind of projects can I do to increase my chances of landing my first IT job? This is by far a frequently asked question, especially these days. We have a challenging labor market, to put it nicely. Getting an IT position right now, we're starting to see a little bit of movement. We have obviously seen the entire industry lose its marbles over AI, which at this point, we've really not seen on the consumer side. We've not really seen any value being provided by this. We just see a lot of marketing provided by this. If anything, it's created less value for the consumer because now there's no person to talk to. All we have is a robot that gives us the wrong answer every time we ask it a question. Not really what we were hoping with AI. And we're starting to see a little bit of that bubble burst. We're starting to see organizations realize, oh, that didn't do what we thought it would do. All we were really doing was trying to get more stockholders. So now we actually have to do work. Let's have some projects. Let's ramp up some projects and get some things going on. And it's at that point where organizations start ramping up their projects that is great for us, because then they have to hire people. They have to have people to do these projects, because it turns out the AI is not going to do it for you. There's a lot of A in AI, but very little I in AI. So this is a chance for you to kind of hop on that landing your first IT job boat. We want to get in there and get that position. But what can we do to help position ourselves as being a better catch, a better hire than other people that may be applying for that same job? Well, there's a number of things that you can do. I've categorized it into 4 different elements, and you'll find it's in the YouTube video description of this video is a link to the video I created called How to Get a Job in IT with No Experience. It's probably one of the most frequent questions we get, so it makes sense that I would make a video of it. And as I got into making this video, I started adding, well, we need to talk about that. Well, we should also talk about this. This would be a good thing to bring up. So the video itself is 30 minutes in length. Now, if you've seen the videos on my course, I have very few videos that are 30 minutes in length. As you know, my videos are very tight with the content. I give you exactly what you need to know. We're not talking a lot about other stories. We're not telling jokes. We're giving you the content so that you can get in, learn what you need, and get out. Similar thing with this 30-minute How to Get a Job in IT with No Experience. In that video, I give you 4 different elements that I feel are super important for doing that. The first element for getting a job in IT with no experience is getting some type of formal education. I know, colleges, universities don't tend to be focusing on information technology as a career for some reason. I think we know what the reasons are, but it's one of those places where they've sort of fallen off in not giving us what we needed to be able to get an IT job right out of school. So having some type of formal degree, though, really helps. And employers, perhaps the most important part of this, the employers would like you to have a formal degree, whether 2-year or 4-year. And having some type of formal degree is going to help you in the interview process. This could be it could be a business degree. It could be an economics degree. It can be a liberal arts degree. It could be a computer science degree. But just keep in mind, computer science is not IT. IT is not computer science. I know, but that's where we are. It's almost a lot of what I do is just explaining to people the world is not the world you think it was. And that's another one of those cases. So formal education, that's our first element. Our second element is it would be great if we had some type of industry certification. When you walk into a job posting opportunity, a chance where you might be able to get an interview, it would be great if you looked a little bit shinier and a little bit smarter than other people. That's your goal. This is a very competitive process. You want everybody else to look like a bumbling fool, and you want to be the one that is smart and knows all of the things. One of the ways that you can position yourself just a little bit better is with an industry certification, CompTIA A+, CompTIA Network+, CompTIA Security+, Cisco certification, Amazon certification, Red Hat certification, Microsoft certification, whatever it is. The job posting will probably tell you what they are looking for, if anything. Some employers don't want an industry certification because they can hire you a little bit cheaper if you don't have an industry certification. So one of the things I will often tell people is that if they are not asking for it, you want to be careful about how much additional content you're putting on there. You don't want to have so many certifications listed for an entry-level position that you look overqualified. A lot of people don't even think about the overqualification part, but that is a significant concern for people that are hiring. If you have 5 different industry certifications, you've got a Microsoft cert and a Cisco cert and an Amazon cert and a CompTIA cert, and you come to the table for this entry-level help desk, I, as the help desk manager, am looking at this thinking, he's going to be bored after his first 2 weeks on the job and he's going to leave. So he might not be our number one candidate. Does that person know everything they need to know to do the job? They do. They know more than that. And that's a concern. You have to be very careful about positioning yourself for these jobs so that you're not seen as overqualified. It's tough. You don't want to be underqualified. You don't want to be overqualified. There's a sweet spot in the middle somewhere, but you have to figure out where that sweet spot is. So there's your first 2 elements: formal education, industry certification. The third one, and I think the one that Khan is asking about here, what type of projects can I do to increase my chances of landing my first IT job? You should absolutely have a home lab going. Do you not have a home lab? You should get a home lab set up. Now, if you're going to work on a position that is a help desk position, maybe it would be good if you set up Windows Server, set up an Active Directory infrastructure in your house for yourself, and you've maybe set up a virtual machine that's a Windows server. Microsoft provides you with a 90-day, I believe it is, a 3-month evaluation for Windows Server for free. So you can download Windows Server and use it. 100% of the capabilities of Windows Server are in this evaluation. It's the same as if you were running a production version. And you can run that and set up Active Directory. In fact, if you watch my video on Active Directory, you will know, or you will see, that there's an Active Directory server, and then I'm connecting to it another Windows 11 machine to be part of the Active Directory infrastructure. All of that's done in virtual machines. I'm running that whole thing on a Mac. So it's a VM running Windows Server, a VM running Windows 11. You can do the same thing. You can do exactly the same thing that I did. Set up your own Windows Server configuration, set up your own Active Directory infrastructure, connect other machines to it, start applying Active Directory policies to it, start changing passwords, start changing configurations. It is exactly the same software you will be using at the help desk. It's exactly the same software that every enterprise out there is using for its Windows networking is Active Directory. You can install it at home. And what's better than walking into an interview process and they say, well, tell us about the things you've done that might help you with this position. Well, I use Active Directory at home. I have a lab where I run Active Directory. In fact, during the setup of Active Directory, I ran into a number of challenges to get it working in a virtual environment. Let me tell you about the problems I ran into and how I solved them. You are almost writing the script of the questions that they would be asking you anyway, but you're actually presenting them as an answer to a different question. So there's something that might help you set up a lab. Active Directory is a good example of that. Maybe setting up your own firewall, especially if you're going into a networking role or security role. It'd be great if you ran a firewall on your network, that you ran reports from that firewall, that you could see how many attacks were made to your network that you blocked with that firewall, and you created a report of that. Wouldn't it be great to bring that into an interview, print it out, bring those reports into an interview, hand them out? Thank you for being here. Here's my report of everybody that attacked my network in the first 60 minutes of me being live on the internet with my firewall. Here's what I saw. That'd be interesting just to see. I almost want everybody to do that and then send me the report, because I want to see what hit your network in the first hour that you were able to block with a firewall. But what a great task to do at home. You'll learn a lot about the networking. You'll learn a lot about virtual systems. You'll learn a lot about setting up policies and running reports. And then you have something that's a great content to use during an interview process. So that's your third of the 4 elements, is a home lab. And I give you some examples of that in that video. This wasn't asked by Khan, who said, what kind of projects can I do? I just gave you a couple of those. Another project you might want to consider doing, especially if it's one where you'll be managing a lot of other Linux-based systems, maybe you want to install something like WordPress. That's a very common Linux or really Windows-based. It's a LAMP. Obviously, you can run it in Windows, but Linux kind of gives you the Linux side of things. Set up a Linux machine with MySQL or a similar database. Set up a web server like Apache or similar, Nginx or whatever you like to run. Set up, make sure PHP is installed on it, and then run your Windows application like WordPress or something else. Somewhere in that setup, you will run into a problem. Make sure you document the problems you're running into so that you then have stories to tell during the interview itself. So there's 3 different projects you might want to consider on if you're thinking of increasing your chances of landing your first IT job. Wait, I told you there were 4 elements. I gave you 3. I gave you formal education, industry certification, labs, home labs. What's the 4th one? Oh yeah, you already know somebody who works there. This is probably one of the least used and most powerful elements when trying to get a job in an organization. We like to hire people we know. Not that we hang out with on the weekends, just somebody who is a professional acquaintance. And one of the challenges you have when you walk into an organization and they've never seen you before, how are they supposed to give any level of trust? Trust is something you earn over time. So if somebody else in the organization knows you, Well, that sets up some additional trust for you. Well, how do you meet people who are already working there? You don't even have a job in IT. How am I supposed to know somebody who works there? Remarkably easy, by the way. In your if you live in any large or relatively large area, there will probably be user group meetings in your area, Microsoft user group, Cisco user group, cloud-based system user group, or even just a generalized IT group that likes to meet. All of these are going to be attended by people who are working in the industry already. And these are people who are probably working at those big buildings that you drive by on the interstate and you go, wow, that's a big building. I bet they have a lot of networking and computer equipment in there. Oh, there's another big building. Bet they got a lot of equipment in there. There's another big. They're already going to these user group meetings. They're going to these industry trade shows or regional trade shows in your area. Go to those shows. Go to those user groups. Meet those people. Don't go to the user group, just sit in the back and don't say anything. This is why we have the user group, so we can meet each other and know who these other people are. The industry itself, relatively small. You will run into the same people throughout your career in IT. We move from place to place. We know the same people. And the only way to get into that network of people is to meet them. And these user group meetings are a great place to do it. There's very few people there. There's food usually that's provided. There's drinks. You have a time where you can all sort of congregate together. Oh, where do you guys work? Where do you work? Oh, I'm looking for a job right now. Are there any open positions in your area? Oh, you work at that big building I drove by on the interstate. I looked at some job openings there. What would you recommend I should do to have the best chance to get a job in your organization? What a great question. And they're just going to tell you. So there's great intel to be made there. Here's another thing that's going to be great, especially if you go to some of these events. The people that you are talking to they will proactively ask you for your resume. That's something you may not be prepared for. But in many of these large organizations, they will go to third-party recruiters to find people to hire. These third-party recruiters are expensive. When you hire somebody brought to you by one of these headhunters, these recruiters usually get a percentage of your annual salary as a payment. Well, that can be a lot of money for an organization. So what organizations have done is tell the people who already work there, if you know somebody who wants to work here, send us their resume. We will put it in our database. And if a job pops up, we will send them a notice. We'll have them come in. If we hire them, you, the employee, gets money. You get your own finder's fee, which, by the way, is a very small percentage of someone's annual pay. It's something that's usually a few hundred bucks. That's what they usually will offer. And if you're in that position that you're looking for a job, you'll find that a lot of people are just asking you for a resume. I work for a lot of places where other people I worked with were really good at this. Whenever we were at a trade show, whenever we were doing some type of event, they would ask people proactively, well, just send me your resume. And they would forward that to HR. And then their name gets connected to your resume. And if any of these people are ever hired, you get some extra money on your paycheck. What a great thing. That's a win-win as well. So if you're worried about what you would run into when you're trying to get your resume out there, sometimes it's easier than you might think. Let's get some more questions. Thank you for submitting that, Colin. Let's get through some other questions that you have sent into this mix as well. Oh, a lot of questions coming in. Thank you for submitting those. If you have a question, you can submit those at any time using the link on your screen, professormusser.com/QA. Here's a question, kind of an international question from my good friend Anonymous. Anonymous asks, is there a difference between the CompTIA A US version compared to the UK version? One of the things about the CompTIA exams is that they are the same internationally. At least from a content perspective, they are the same internationally. The only thing you might notice is that we spell initialization wrong. We might say the words improperly. I think you could probably work through those. That's the beauty of being in the UK, is that, well, English is sort of you. You decided we messed up the language when we brought it over here, and we're happy about that. And you try to change it. come and get it. We can always fight about that one. But from a perspective of certifications, we're all in this together. It's all the same certification with the same content, the same exam objectives. And in many cases, you have around the world, there are translations done. We don't do a translation for the UK version. So sorry. So you'll have to stumble through the American language to be able to figure that out. But if you happen to be somewhere where you speak Spanish, there's a Spanish language version of the exam. And there will be other languages added on throughout this year as we go through it. So commonly Japanese, I think German is often in there. There's some others that CompTIA adds into that mix. So if there is any difference, there are language differences, but the content is the same. The exam objectives don't change depending on what country you're in. The only thing that changes is how the exam itself is provided and the languages available to you. If you are in a country and you are wanting to take it in a language that is not the primary language of that country, you might also be able to get some extra time. So if you are in a Spanish-speaking country and you take the English version of the exam, there might be some extra time allocated to you. The details of that are on the CompTIA website. Every language in every country is a little bit different, so be sure you check those in that mix. But there are differences in style, but not differences in content. So it's all the same no matter where you happen to be in the world. And so I need to get back over to the UK sometime soon. That'd be a lot of fun. Go over there and have something related to work, but also something related to fun. It's always good to have. Let's keep going through the list of things that you have sent to me. A lot of good questions have come in. There are other questions about technology that some people were working on. Let's talk about security. This is a question that kind of comes up quite a bit. This is also from a very, very close friend of mine known as Anonymous. Anonymous asks, is it possible to begin cybersecurity foundations with the Security Plus certification? Is it necessary to get the A Plus and Network Plus? Some research has shown the Security Plus is requested more. Ooh, have you broken the code? Do we have some special intel? Nope, this is the way that it commonly works. So let's sort of talk about A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, and sort of foundational technologies, networking type technologies, and security type technologies in the world of IT. In most cases, you will find that someone who is working towards a position in the security department, and I'm really talking here about the information technology security teams. These are the people that are managing your firewalls. They're setting up your VPNs. They may be managing your private key infrastructure or public key infrastructure. They might be setting up your authentication mechanisms. Maybe they maintain the SIM and all of the reporting that's done in your environment. That security team is very, very busy. And of course, they have to react to events, help prevent events, manage your patching, manage your antivirus and anti-malware. They're busy folks. They got a lot going on. But that type of role in the IT security department is not generally considered entry level. It is not generally considered entry level in the scope of information technology. Usually you have to work up into that type of role, because somebody who's working in the IT security department needs to have a very good understanding of operating systems. They need to be almost an expert in designing and setting up networking technologies. Certainly they understand the protocols going across the network. And then they have to know everything else: encryption, protections, antivirus, anti-malware, processes and procedures around reacting to events, how to handle certain events, how to handle disaster recovery type issues. So this is not somebody who is just out of school, who's just walked in the door. This is somebody who has spent probably years gathering and developing a foundation of knowledge that they can then apply to be entry level in security, which is not the same as entry level in IT. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule. Let me give you a reason why. Mostly because in the United States, our federal government, especially in the Department of Defense side, when they hire somebody for a technical role in IT, they require you to have a minimum type of industry certifications. So a very common entry-level industry certification for Department of Defense IT is Security Plus. So you might see, if you live in Maryland, Virginia, DC, or in that kind of federal corridor, you may see that a huge percentage of jobs, minimum, are asking for Security Plus. Is it a security-related job? No. Maybe entry-level IT. But they require you to have that foundational knowledge in security, because in reality, security is the responsibility of everybody in IT, not just the security department. And when you're talking about Department of Defense, security is a big deal, obviously. So whenever you start looking at Security Plus in that little area, in that region, not really little, it's a big region, there's a lot of jobs there where Security Plus is a minimum. They don't really care about A Plus and Network Plus. Those are not required. Security Plus is required. So your job postings are going to be skewed quite a bit over to the Security Plus side if you are in the DC area. But if you live in Seattle, in LA, in Dallas, anywhere that's not that particular federal corridor, then you might not find the same emphasis in Security Plus. You might find that people really are looking for A Plus, or looking for Network Plus, or looking for Cisco, or looking for AWS, Amazon, looking for Microsoft, or whatever it happens to be. So you'll find that it is different depending on where you are. Geography makes a big difference for some of these. Sometimes it doesn't, but for Security Plus, it certainly does. But also keep in mind that any security job, and I loved working in security. I loved working as a systems engineer, designing, implementing next generation firewalls and other security technologies in some of the biggest networks in the world. It is thrilling. It is interesting. Every day is different, and sometimes very surprising, the things you would find on someone's network. The challenge, though, is you can't just jump into one of those positions. I spent an entire career learning everything I could learn about Windows, about Windows Server, about Linux, about Mac OS. So I tried to get as much of an understanding at desktop management, server management, troubleshooting, planning, designing, implementing, recovering. Operating system, incredibly important. Then I also spent a number of years of my career learning about the network. How did they connect? What are these protocols about? How do these protocols work? Show me the IP level. Show me the MAC level. Show me, let's look at wireless. Let's look at application traffic. Let's look at encrypted communication. Those are also important. So I spent years becoming as expert as I could on the networking side. And that helped because those together give you a very solid foundation that you can then use to move into the world of security. So whenever I tell people that are interested in security and they're thinking, I'm going to get out of college and I'm going to go get that security job, I go, hold on. There are some entry-level security jobs out there. There are not a lot, but a lot of these security jobs that are truly entry-level into IT are usually in something like a security operations center, an SOC, a SOC, we refer to it. SOCs are usually in very large companies. They're usually in large, obviously, because large companies are in large geographical areas, large metropolitan areas, that you will want to find out what organizations in our city have a SOC. There may only be a handful of those in a big area. I think in Atlanta, you might find that there are 10, maybe 20 SOCs, maybe. It's probably less than that. True SOCs are in that particular area, in that market. So not a lot of jobs there for entry-level in security, but there are some. Those are entry-level security jobs. Those are really triage type positions. It's sort of like a help desk, but for security. Yep, you didn't get out of the help desk. You're still in the help desk, but you're doing security-related calls and not everything else. But those are a great way to learn the language, learn the nomenclature, learn about security, and learn what the people who are doing those big jobs are really doing. Because you can simply stand behind them and go, oh, what's that about? What are you doing? What's that? Where are you going? What's happening at that console there? So you can actually get a lot of knowledge just sponged off of the people that you're around. So that might be a good place to go as well, but it's not required. It's not something that's going to limit you, or in some cases, it might not even help you further your process, because you still need to know about operating systems. You still need to know about the network. I would say IT security, huge percentage of that is network. You have to be really good about networking to be in the world of IT security. It sort of goes with those hand in hand. You really need to be that network expert. The more expertise you get in networking, the much easier a job in IT security tends to show up. So have a look at those ideas. I think that might help you at least maybe give you some ideas about places you can go and things you can look at to be able to know what the next steps are when trying to find out, can I get that job in security? Is it something I can really do? Yes, it is, but you need to get there first. You need to work on those and make sure you understand what the different options are going to be for a position and be a little more realistic with those positions as well. Let's keep going through the list. What we have here, a lot of questions coming in here at the end. Thanks for submitting those. We still have some time, so I want to get through a couple more of them. Let's see what we have here. I seem to be reading through the same ones over again. Sorry about that. Let's keep going through the details. So let's talk about setting up your system at home. This is a question from Rolando, who says, yeah, I tried to create a server at home with Windows Server to practice, but I mounted in a VM and it made my entire PC run slowly. I would like a Proxmox is a good option, run a VM, not have those in the system. You could have a separate computer, certainly, to run virtual systems on. Containerization might be an option if you want to set things up in more of a container type environment. There's a lot of packages that can do that. I think a VM is fine, but you do have to make sure you have enough resources on a single computer to effectively run multiple computers on that same system. So you're going to need additional memory. Ideally, you'll certainly need drive space to store the VM on, but I think probably your more important resource, probably the most important resource that you need to consider when setting up additional VMs on your computer is RAM. It's memory. So if you're only running a system with 4 megabytes, maybe even 8, that is kind of 8 is a bare minimum, but you could probably run it okay. You might want to allocate a lower amount of memory towards that version of Windows so that it doesn't affect your overall performance of your system. But you might find that you just don't have enough CPU and you don't have enough memory to run multiple operating systems at one time and really make it something worthwhile to do. That can be a challenge because that's expensive. And especially when you talk about memory these days, as we've all seen, the AI has caused memory to go through the roof. Has it really? I don't know how much I believe about that, by the way. I'm sure there have been people buying more systems, but haven't we always bought more systems? I mean, if we were going to see memory prices go through the roof, wouldn't that have been when the cloud was going crazy? In any case, whether we can all talk about weird pricing things relating to memory at some other time, but let's say that's the case, that memory's just shot through the roof. The reality is for all of us, memory is now more expensive. Regardless of the reason, it now costs us more to buy RAM. In some cases, a lot more to buy RAM. You may not be in a position to buy any more memory, but you might have an old system sitting in a closet that could run Linux with 4 meg and it would be great. Maybe that's what we would run for our virtual environment. Maybe we want a completely different computer from someone else, or maybe a friend of ours has a computer that could run all of these VMs at the same time. Maybe we have them help us out with spending time on their system getting these things running. It's a VM, so it's not going to hurt anything else that's on that computer. That would be very, very useful to have there, but you need to find those resources. It probably is not CPU unless you have a very, very old system, but that's certainly possible. You'll need to bring up Task Manager on your Windows computer running all these VMs to see where is the resource contention. Is it with video? Is it with CPU? Is it with memory? Is it with storage space? If you're running out of memory, it tends to then start reading and writing more to the storage drive, trying to swap things out so it can make a little more room. Well, that also slows things down, especially if you have a traditional spinning hard drive. That might be also contributing to this. So having more RAM can often solve a lot of problems for you. So this is one of those where you're just going to need the right resources on the device you're using for virtual machines. Although you might be able to parse things down and start using a minimal amount of those resources, it could, especially in an older system, still have a negative effect on performance. Now, the good part about this, of course, is as soon as you turn off the virtual machine, you now get all of your resources back and your system runs normally. You haven't broken anything. You're not crippling the machine going forward. You don't have to then delete the whole thing that you created. You can simply just turn off the VM. And now the only resource you're really using at that point is the storage space associated with that VM. So probably a number of gigabytes in size to be able to do that. But I have run virtual machines on a relatively old system with 8 megabytes of memory, and I was able to get my base Windows operating system, a copy of Windows Server running, and a copy of Windows 11 running so that I could then connect it to Windows Server using Active Directory. So you should be able to do that, at least at a very minimum, do that on a system with 8 gig of RAM. That should work for you. And if it's just slower than that, then it's probably that you have a really old system. It's got a super slow CPU. It just can't keep up with everything that's going on. Maybe that's the point of contention. It may take a little bit of practice and a little bit of help to tweak some of these VMs and the resources that you've allocated to the VM, but you should be able to get them all running in 8 gig at a minimum, I would think. So just things you can try. Maybe you can find the right combination for you, or you've been wanting to spend some extra money on a new machine, right? Here's my justification for you. There you go. I got to have it, or else I won't be able to run these VMs, and then I can't do a home lab, and I won't have a job, and then we'll be on the street. See, you see how that works? It's sort of like I need that cordless screwdriver. It's important that I have the cordless screwdriver, maybe a flashlight. I need both of those things, or else we're going to be on the street. That's in my mind. It always sort of gets there. It does this. If I don't do that, then this is going to happen, and that's why we won't be able to pay the mortgage. You know, that type of thing. In reality, that's not the case, but I really need that cordless screwdriver. It's super important. Just another one of those things. I looked at prices of computers today, by the way. Should not have done that. Should not have done that. I said, what if I want to buy a pre-built system from one of the popular pre-built system houses? It's focusing on gaming. Let's get a gaming computer, because then I can do anything with a gaming computer. Let's see how much they cost. The prices have gone through the roof because primarily of memory. So now instead of paying $5,000 for a computer, they're now $7,000 and $8,000 for a computer. That's a dramatic change of a relatively short time frame. And I keep expecting the prices to now start coming back down now that we're firing AI developers. Companies have decided not to continue with their AI efforts. We're starting to see companies that focus on AI have lost 30% of their stock value in the last number of months. Could we be getting to a point where we're finally starting to realize that this really is hype and doesn't really have the broad scope that everybody painted this to have? Maybe it has a more narrow scope. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out shortly who's going to win that argument. It's probably a combination of those things. So we will see how prices go over the next 3 months and see if we want to buy now. It's almost like buying stock. Do we buy now when it's high? Do we wait so it comes down a little bit? Should we really be in this position with technology? Well, here we are. This is what we're doing. So yes, we are in this position with technology, and that's how we're going to go, at least for the short term. It's an interesting story regardless. I can't wait to see what happens with that. Let's keep going through your questions. A lot of folks are asking when the next study session is going to be. I like that you're at least asking, other than saying, I'm never coming to another study session again. At least people are asking when the next one is. You can always find out when the next event is going to be by going to professormesser.com/calendar. If you're already in our Discord, I have a separate Discord events calendar. I generally don't set those up until after the Core 2 group, which is this one. So you will start to see those being added back into the calendar for next month, probably today, tomorrow, over the weekend, you'll start to see updates on those. So we can make that work. More questions. Let's see, because we have just a little bit of time for some additional ones, and I want to be sure to get into these. Okay, this is a common question. We were just talking about what you need to know to get that job, and we've talked about a lot of different topics today. We've talked about your formal education, your industry certifications. We've talked about your home lab. We've talked about knowing people and going to these industry events. All of these things are good. So let's get more focused. This is from Chastity, who writes, "Hello, I graduate with my AAS in IT spring 2026. Exciting. Sounds like a 2-year degree. If I'm reading in between the lines here. So get a 2-year degree in information technology, which, by the way, very unusual to find in our 4-year degree companies. So if you are or universities. So if you go to a university, they don't tend to have a focus on information technology, or if they do have an information technology degree, it very often is a computer science degree that's got a couple of extra things thrown into it. It's not really information technology. But universities and especially 2-year colleges have caught on that there's just not enough training for IT. So you're starting to see more 2-year IT degrees. I hope that translates into 4-year IT degrees. I think that would be very valuable for not just for individuals, but I think it would be very good for companies as well. But in any case, let's continue with the question. I'm going into a BT program summer 2026. I wanted to major in one of the 2 cybersecurity options, but I'm considering other factors. I'm now leaning towards network infrastructure. What's your advice on this? This is my own personal advice about security or networking, especially in college. As we've already mentioned today, there are not a lot of IT entry-level positions that have anything to do with IT security. Those are usually reserved for people that have a very solid foundation in operating systems and a very solid foundation in networking. I don't think, and I could really, my career in IT, I can absolutely point to a specific day that changed my direction in my career. There is one day I came into the office. I was working at an insurance company very early on in my career. I worked originally right out of school. During college, I worked as a computer operator at Florida State University. I managed usually afternoons and nights. I was the person that was sort of behind the window where the mainframes were. My job was to load tapes because that was the offline storage mechanism of choice at the time. I also was responsible for pulling printouts off the printer, separating them, and putting them out for people to get their output. There was a lot, and I was the babysitter of the system, so that if the system crashed, I had to call the people who would then come and fix the system. So that was a great job during college. Right out of school, I got a job as what is probably best described as a field service technician. I worked for a small computer company in South Miami. I would get my job listings at the beginning of the day, and I drive around delivering cables, installing hard drives, upgrading motherboards, replacing systems, doing warranty repair, just anything where you had to go to the computer. That was me. And then I finally got a job working after that, got a job working at an insurance company in Miami where I was in their service group. I was in their help desk effectively. So I moved up to help desk. I was below help desk. I moved up. I was promoted into help desk. So at the help desk level, you get to learn about all kinds of different things. And that from there, I kind of moved into a desktop management system, a management role. So I was in charge of the operating systems, deploying operating systems, managing operating systems, especially across the network. And then one day I came into work, and all the network guys who were they were really cool folks. At least you see these folks working on the network. They know everything about the network pieces. They were literally on the floor with this computer box that was plugged into the network, and it was making sounds like a Geiger counter, and there's a lot of little dials and things that were moving on the screen, and they were all sort of around it. This is one of those scenarios where you walk out in the street and everybody's looking into the sky, and you walk out in the street and you're like, what's up in the sky? What are you doing? And you have no idea what's going on, but something is going on. Well, that was the case here. So I walked up just like them and sort of stood behind them and looked at that and like, what is that? What is that thing making the funny noises? The little crackling noises on the screen. They said, this is a product from Network General called the Sniffer. And it shows you every frame, every packet of data, every bit of data going across the network, and it presents it to you in a way that is readable by humans. And immediately I thought, that is the coolest thing in the world. And that was the day that I can say in my career, I know everything that happened before that day was part of my career. And then there's everything that happened after that day. That was the defining moment for me that made me realize, well, I need to know more about that. I need to know what that does. I need to know more about what the unseen information that I just had to guess what it was like. I read about it. I have books that talked about the frames. I have books that talked about the protocols, but I never got to see them. At the time, of course, we didn't have public domain protocol analysis tools. Everything was commercial. So this was my very first time I physically was able to see the network and see the protocols. And then I started learning everything I could about the network. So for me, if I was in the position that you were in, I'd be going network, because I will tell you the network affects, touches, and has an impact on every aspect of information technology. Everything you're doing with operating systems obviously is touching the network. Cloud-based systems, networking. Being able to connect wide area connections across VPNs, being able to make sure that all of those are properly protected, network team. Switching, routing, network. Dynamic routing, other protocols, applications, slowdowns, troubleshooting, performance, networking. Everything connects in network, everything. And so that to me was sort of a foundational knowledge that I was able to use in every other circumstance that I ran into for the rest of my career. When I needed to move into the world of security, I just talked about my background, understanding the protocols and understanding how different applications worked at the protocol level, and understanding how to troubleshoot and manage and secure those, because it showed that you knew how things really worked under the hood. You know, if you're taking your car in to get it serviced, you don't want the service technician to look at the hood of your car and kind of wipe the top of it and go, well, okay, it's shiny now. We fixed the problem. Like, don't you want to lift the hood and look underneath and see if everything's connected and where it would go and why it's making that funny noise? Nope. Of course they do. So this is the case that you will be in constantly throughout your careers. People will give you a very high-level problem. Well, let's look under the hood. And under the hood, from that perspective, is the network. So I am incredibly biased when it comes to this specific question, because it was me. There's two sides. The cybersecurity stuff is important and it's useful, and people are asking about it. But the jobs out there, especially entry-level jobs, are few and far between. I guess eventually in your career, you will be able to use that degree. Networking you can use right now. You will come right off the bottom of this list. You will get into a help desk or an entry-level position. You'll know exactly how all these things are working together, and you'll be able to leverage that perhaps into a role that is network-centric. Maybe you'll become a switch administrator, a router administrator. You'll design networks. You will implement networks. You will connect the networks. You will troubleshoot the networks, maybe with a specific product or with a number of different products. Maybe you'll work for a value-added reseller. Maybe you'll work for a manufacturer. Maybe you'll work for the end user. So many jobs available for someone with a solid understanding of network technology. And it's a set of knowledge, foundational knowledge, that you will be able to use throughout the rest of your career. Cybersecurity, also very good. The challenge you have when you're very early on in your career is just getting a job when the only thing you know is cybersecurity. People are not hiring cybersecurity right out of school. They're hiring them once they learn the operating system and once they learn the network. So that there's different ways to go with this, but if it was me or if it was my kids who are already in school, many of them are in school or have finished school and working on IT related jobs, networking is incredibly important. So I would lean that way, but this is one of those situations you kind of can't go incredibly wrong. Both of these, security and networking, are highly regarded. They are highly technical roles. You have to have a lot of knowledge for these roles, and they are well needed in the industry. It will probably depend on where you are in your career, but you will be able to use all of these. So there's a lot to work through. There's a lot of concepts around that, but the good part, you flip a coin, you are a winner either way. It really is that type of situation. There's worse decisions you can be put into having to make. This is not one of them. This one, you're good. What I often tell people in the industry, and this kind of applies not just to this question, but in general, when you're in IT, there are so many different directions you can go. Let's say you're working at a help desk. You'd be thinking, what can I do over the next 5 years? Where should I be going? Well, you should be thinking about what you like to do. Do you like operating systems? Do you like Windows? Do you like Linux? That's a great place to go. Do you like the cloud? We could probably do the cloud. Maybe we should learn more about Python. We should learn more about automation. Maybe we go cloud direction. Great way to go. I really like switching. I really like routing. I really like protocols. Let's go over and do some networking stuff. Also a great way to go. And then security and databases and email and DNS, and you just keep going with this. All of these different areas, these different silos of knowledge that are useful to know in the world of IT, you really can't go wrong with any of them. And what you will find is throughout your career, you will tend to move back and forth between different topics. And quite honestly, there will be technologies that arrive in the next 5 to 10 years that none of us have even thought about yet. Just the nature of the beast. There will be, before there was the cloud, we didn't know about the cloud. Before there was virtualization, we didn't know about virtualization. Before there were all of these technologies that we had to deal with, they just didn't exist. So you can become an expert in an emerging field relatively easy in IT as long as you have a foundation that you are building on. So your goal right now in your first 2 to 5 years out of school, you should have a good idea of what foundation you are building, but you should also have an eye on what interests you, because you can kind of lean that direction. Oh, here's a networking job that opened up. I'd love to have a networking job. I've spent all this time in front of my Wireshark screen trying to understand what's going on. I've become very knowledgeable in switches and routers. I've designed a few. We've set them up. This is where I want to go. You can lean that direction, and now you're doing more networking just because you had an interest in it. This is one of the very few industries where you can do that. It's hard to do that in things like medicine. In medicine, you spend years learning about the hand. You're an expert in the hand. You know everything there is to know about the hand. Or maybe it's ENT, or maybe it's the heart, or maybe you know everything there is to know about bones. But that's your job now for the rest of your life. You can't really take your knowledge of heart and you decide, I really want to be a podiatrist. I guess you could, but why would you do that? You've spent 10 years of your life learning about the heart. That's really what you're going to be doing the rest of your career. Doesn't work that way in IT. IT gives you flexibility to move in a direction of things that are interesting to you. And I think if you're working a job, you want your job to be interesting. You want something different every day. You want some challenges, some things that are going to really make you think to make your job worth doing. You can't do that your entire career at the help desk. You're going to have to move a direction. That direction should be something that's your decision and not someone else's. So another one of those things you can think about. That's for those of you just starting out in the career, that's a kind of a high level consideration. I realize you're not quite there yet, but there will be a time in your career where you're looking over there and thinking, that technology is super cool. How can I get involved in that? And you just sort of lean into it. Sort of try to take the boat and paddle that direction a little bit. And what you'll find is the boat's going to head over there and it's ready for you. You've got the foundation. You should be able to jump right into that. It is one of the most powerful advantages of IT. It's one of the reasons we do this. It's because I really feel this industry, more than any other industry in the world, gives you more control on what you want to do as a career, gives you the flexibility of what you work on, where you work on this, and how you work on this. This is not something you get in other industries. There's a lot of flexibility and control and direction that you can set because you have the expertise. And so few people, remarkably, so few people in this world have spent time building that expertise. You will work with a lot of people that are incredibly smart and so far beyond what you know with these technologies you're working on. You're also going to work with a lot of people that, how did you get this job knowing what you know? You really don't know anything about this. They sort of stumbled into it, but they're not going to move up any further. They've sort of hit the max until they start applying themselves. But if you are someone who is constantly learning, you're constantly interested, you're constantly curious about all of these things we're doing with technology, you can go as far as you want. You can make as much money as you'd like. You can work anywhere in the world you want to work. You can have whatever type of work environment makes sense for you, all because you have that particular knowledge in those technologies. It is remarkable what you're able to do with this and where it will take you. You don't even know yet. And there's no way for me to even describe to you how that's going to be, because sometimes it's out of the blue. It just hits you like a lightning, and suddenly one day you're doing one thing, the next day you're doing something completely different. Where else would IT? Could you do something like that? It is a great type of career. It's a place that gives you an ongoing career and being able to simply expand, extend, and provide you with flexibility that will help you support yourself and support your family. Well, that gives us a great place to end up with this week's Core 2 study group, this month's Core 2 study group. We did A+ Core 1 2 days ago on Tuesday. We finished up with Core 2 today. We've got more this month. Come back next week, Friday the 13th. We've got our Network Plus study group. Come back for that one. And I will make sure we get the March dates added to the calendar on the website and on the Discord, hopefully in the next couple of days. You can always find out when the next live event is going to be by going to our calendar at professormesser.com/calendar. Well, that brings us to the end of another study group. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time on the Core 2 study group. Thanks, everybody.